some truths hide until someone dares to see them. This is VeilX TV. Imagine you wake up one morning, open your phone, and the news says missiles are flying across the Middle East. Cities are on fire, governments are threatening each other, and the whole world is watching, holding its breath. You might ask, why? How did it get this bad? Is this a new war or something that's been building for decades? And most importantly, what does this have to do with you, someone sitting thousands of miles away? Well, buckle up, because today we are going to break it all down. The history, the rivalries, the secret deals, the bombings, and the question everyone is asking. Is the entire Middle East about to explode? I'm going to explain this like you're 15 years old, because honestly, most adults still don't fully understand it either. By the end of this video, you will. Chapter 1. Where is the Middle East? First, let's get our geography straight. The Middle East is a region in southwestern Asia and northeastern Africa. It includes countries like Iran, Iraq, Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Jordan, Egypt, and a few others. Now, why is this region so important to the entire world? 3 big reasons. 1. Oil. The Middle East sits on top of a huge chunk of the world's oil and natural gas. Almost every country on Earth needs this fuel to run cars, planes, factories, and power grids. So when the Middle East is unstable, global energy prices go up, which means everything from your food to your electricity bill gets more expensive. 2. Religion. 3 of the world's biggest religions, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, all consider this region holy. Jerusalem alone is sacred to all 3, so religious emotions run incredibly high here. 3. Location. The Middle East connects Europe, Africa, and Asia. It's one of the world's most important trading routes. Control this region, and you control a lot of global power. Now that you understand why the Middle East matters, let's talk about the 2 main players in today's conflict, Israel and Iran. Chapter 2. Israel and Iran. How did they become enemies? Here's something shocking. Iran and Israel used to be friends. Back in the 1960s and 70s, Iran was ruled by a king called the Shah. He was pro-Western, meaning he liked America, and America liked him. Israel and Iran had good trade relations and even cooperated on intelligence. But then, 1979, everything changed. A revolution happened in Iran. A religious leader named Ayatollah Khomeini overthrew the Shah and declared Iran an Islamic republic. The new Iranian government was deeply anti-American and deeply anti-Israel. Their motto, death to America. From that moment on, Iran made it their mission to destroy the state of Israel. They called Israel an illegal occupier of Muslim land, referring to the Palestinian territories, and said Israel had no right to exist. Israel, of course, felt very differently. Now fast forward to today. Iran has built one of the most powerful military networks in the Middle East. But here's the clever part. Iran doesn't just fight Israel directly. Instead, Iran funds and trains what experts call proxy groups. Think of them like hired fighters or allies, armed and paid for by Iran, but operating from different countries. These groups include Hezbollah, a powerful militant group based in Lebanon, right on Israel's northern border. Hamas, the group that controls Gaza on Israel's southern border. The Houthis, a rebel group that took over much of Yemen. Various armed militias in Iraq and Syria. Iran calls this network the axis of resistance. Basically, they've surrounded Israel with enemies on all sides. Pretty smart strategy, if you're Iran. Israel calls it a terror network, and they've spent years trying to dismantle it. Chapter 3, October 7th, 2023. The day everything changed. Now let's talk about the spark that started the current fire. October 7th, 2023. On that day, Hamas, the militant group controlling Gaza, launched the deadliest attack on Israel since the country was founded. Over 3,000 Hamas fighters broke through the security fence surrounding Gaza, invaded Israeli towns, and killed over 200 people, mostly civilians. For Israelis, it felt like their worst nightmare had come true. It was their version of September 11th. Israel's response was swift and devastating. The Israeli military launched a massive campaign in Gaza, declaring its goal was to destroy Hamas completely. Bombs, airstrikes, ground troops. Within weeks, large parts of Gaza were in ruins. The humanitarian situation became catastrophic. Food, water, medicine, all running out. Tens of thousands of Palestinians were killed. The entire world started watching. Some countries supported Israel's right to defend itself. Others condemned the scale of destruction. Protests erupted in cities around the world. But here's what made this even more dangerous. It wasn't just Israel versus Hamas. Because Hamas is backed by Iran, this conflict was now pulling the entire axis of resistance into the fight. Chapter 4. The war spreads. Hezbollah, Yemen, Syria, Iraq. Remember those proxy groups we talked about? They all started activating. Hezbollah in Lebanon. Almost immediately after October 7th, Hezbollah began firing rockets into northern Israel from Lebanon. Not a full-scale war yet, but enough to keep millions of Israelis living in fear, fleeing their homes in the north. Israel responded with airstrikes into Lebanon. Then in 2024, Israel escalated dramatically, assassinating senior Hezbollah commanders, including their longtime leader Hassan Nasrallah, a man who had led Hezbollah for over 30 years. It was one of the biggest military strikes in the region in years. Lebanon, already a country broken by political chaos and economic collapse, was now getting bombed. Hundreds of thousands of Lebanese civilians were displaced. The Houthis in Yemen. Way down in Yemen, the Houthi rebels, also backed by Iran, decided to join the fight in a unique way. They started launching drones and missiles at commercial ships in the Red Sea. Why the Red Sea? Because it's one of the world's most important shipping lanes. About 15% of global trade passes through it, including oil, consumer goods, and food supplies. The Houthis said they were blocking ships connected to Israel in solidarity with Palestinians. The result? Global shipping companies rerouted their ships around Africa, adding weeks and thousands of dollars in costs. Prices of goods went up worldwide. The US and UK launched airstrikes on Houthi positions in Yemen to try to stop the attacks, but the Houthis kept going. Iraq and Syria. Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria also began launching drones and rockets at American military bases in the region. The US has troops stationed across the Middle East, and these groups wanted to push them out. America fired back with airstrikes. So to summarize, within months of October 7th, you had active military conflicts in Gaza, Lebanon, Yemen, Syria, and Iraq, all connected, all fueled in part by the Iran-Israel rivalry. Chapter 5. Iran versus Israel. The direct confrontation. Then something happened that the world hadn't seen before. Iran and Israel directly attacked each other's territory. In April 2024, Israel killed several top Iranian military commanders in an airstrike on the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria. Iran was furious. A consulate is considered like an extension of a country's own soil. Attacking it was seen as crossing a major line. Iran retaliated by launching over 300 drones and missiles directly at Israel. It was the first time Iran had ever directly attacked Israeli territory. The world held its breath. But here's what happened. Israel, with help from the US, UK, France, and even Jordan, intercepted almost all of the projectiles. The Iron Dome and other defense systems worked. Very little damage was caused. Israel then launched its own retaliatory strike, hitting a target inside Iran itself. For the first time in history, Iran and Israel had officially exchanged direct fire. The proxy war had become a real war, at least for a moment. Both sides then paused, seemingly not wanting to escalate further into a full-blown war. But the message was clear. The red lines had been crossed. There was no going back to pretending. Chapter 6. Why is the whole region destabilized? So why is the entire Middle East in chaos, and not just Israel and Gaza? There are several deep reasons. Reason 1. Old wounds. The Middle East has been fighting over land, religion, and power for centuries. Borders were drawn by European colonial powers after World War I, often ignoring local cultures and communities. Many of those borders have never fully been accepted by the people living there. Reason 2. The Iran versus Saudi Arabia. Cold War. It's not just Israel versus Iran. There's a massive power struggle between Iran, which is Shia Muslim and Persian, and Saudi Arabia, which is Sunni Muslim and Arab. These two giants have been fighting for influence across the region for decades, funding different sides in conflicts in Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq. Every conflict in the region gets tangled up in this rivalry. Reason 3. Outside powers meddling. The US, Russia, and China all have huge interests in the Middle East. The US supports Israel and has military bases throughout the region. Russia has military presence in Syria, China has been buying oil and making deals. When big powers back different sides, smaller conflicts become bigger, longer, and harder to resolve. Reason 4. The Palestinian question. At the heart of much of the tension is the unresolved status of Palestine. Palestinians want their own state, free from Israeli military control. Israel says it needs security. Decades of failed peace talks have left the situation frozen, and every few years, violence erupts again, pulling in the whole region. The world is deeply divided on this conflict. Team Israel, broadly speaking. The United States, United Kingdom, Germany, and most Western nations strongly support Israel's right to defend itself. They condemn Hamas and Hezbollah as terrorist organizations. They provide Israel with weapons, intelligence, and diplomatic support. Team Palestine, anti-war. Many countries in the global south, including South Africa, Turkey, and much of the Arab world, have condemned Israel's military campaign in Gaza as disproportionate and a violation of international law. South Africa even filed a case against Israel at the International Court of Justice, accusing it of genocide. Mass protests have taken place in nearly every major city in the world. Neutral, worried about escalation. Countries like China, India, and the UAE are worried about the conflict spiraling into a wider war that could damage the global economy. They're calling for ceasefires and diplomatic solutions. The United Nations has repeatedly called for ceasefires and humanitarian aid to be allowed into Gaza. But vetoes in the Security Council, especially from the US, have blocked binding resolutions. The world is watching, but no one has been able to stop the violence. Chapter 8. What happens next? So, what happens next? Scenario 1. Containment. The conflicts stay limited. Israel and Hamas eventually reach a ceasefire deal. Hezbollah pulls back. Iran and Israel avoid direct confrontation. Life slowly returns to a tense, but stable, normal. Scenario 2. Escalation. Iran decides to go further. Israel launches a major strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. Iran unleashes all its proxy groups simultaneously. The US gets dragged in. You have a regional war involving dozens of countries, and possibly a global economic crisis. Scenario 3. Diplomacy. International pressure forces negotiations. A two-state solution for Israel and Palestine gets revived. Iran and Israel find ways to reduce tensions. This is the hopeful scenario, but also the hardest one to achieve. The truth is, the Middle East has always been a powder keg. For the past few years, that powder keg has been on fire. Why this matters to you? You might be wondering, why should I care about something happening thousands of miles away? Here's why. The Middle East affects your life more than you think. The price of petrol, the cost of goods in shops, the chance of a global war, all connected to what happens in that region. More importantly, real human beings live there. Children your age, families, teachers, doctors, people just trying to live their lives, caught in the middle of conflicts they didn't start. Understanding what's happening is the first step to caring, and caring is the first step to a better world. If you want to know more, keep watching, keep reading, keep asking questions. The world needs people who are informed, compassionate, and not afraid to think critically. Thank you for watching, and remember, peace is always worth fighting for.